whatever minion is out there. So there's a lot of intelligent card inclusions that's coming into this series that we'll talk a little bit more about once we get into Jump. As both players, of course, getting ready, warming up. Some quite literally trying to warm up. It looks like XiaoT maybe blowing some heat into his hands to get in the zone as we get ready for game number 1. It is a warrior versus a warrior.
Yes, it is, but they're quite a bit different. Jarla is running, as you just mentioned, the ETC warrior, using ETC God of Metal. It's more of a control-style warrior, using a Risky Skipper, Armor Smith, Battle Rage package as a good draw engine defensive tool. The biggest things here is Jarla is playing Cobalt Sticky Finger. Now, he's only playing one. But a caveat to make here is that he's also putting Zephyrus in his list. So there is an opportunity for multiple weapon destructions. Now, the opportunity for Zephyrus is pretty limited, especially going up against Bomb Warrior when there's most likely going to be Bomb Shuffled in your deck. But the ability to gain a huge burst of armor, the ability to steal a weapon, and the ability to still have a win condition with ETC later on in the game, Jarla should be okay. So XiaoT, not really too much tech going on in his list. He does have like Ironbeak Owl, which, while it's a tech card, it's not going to really help much in this matchup. Other than that, it seems pretty much just like a standard Bomb Warrior list. And he does not have the Risky Skipper Armor Smith, so he's going to have a lot of turns where he's not doing much of anything. The goal here is just to try and shuffle the bombs in as fast as possible before Jarla has a chance to gain out-of-control armor, draw through his deck, or get that Cobalt Sticky Finger online. So, going to be pretty slow in the game. But as is Jarla's fashion, going to make sure that he thinks through every single turn, even though it doesn't seem like any of these cards are slated for the current game state. There was maybe some merit to pointing out Ankar, but I don't think he really needs to get ahead of anything. I think it's just about trying to make sure that he has the resources to react to whatever XiaoT's going to do, and then try and find his sticky finger, which Ankar can. It's close to it.
Yeah. Anchor are pretty crucial just to make sure that Jarla is getting quality draws. But he already has some of the more powerful cards in the late game in his hand. It's a little bit awkward. Against Bomb Warrior, you don't really tend to use ETC God of Metal to combo your opponents out of the game. The text on the card does say that if you attack with a rush minion, deal 2 damage to the enemy opponent directly. So a lot of times you end up copying ETC God of Metal, playing cards like Animated Broomstick to give all of your minions rush, including the Bloodsworn Mercenary, including ETC and the copy of it. And you can do a lot of damage. But Bottom Warrior is a class, even though it doesn't gain a ton of armor, it is an archetype that still is able to survive big chunks of that damage, just because it does get armor to go past 30. So I do wonder how much Jarla is going to try and use that combination to get a bunch of damage in, or is he going to try to use it to play tempo, maybe get some damage in, or just potentially use it to outlast their opponent? Because Bomb Warriors sometimes can run out of damage if you're able to mitigate a lot of their weapon swings through that Wrench Caliber. Okay.
Not good, Dan.
Awkward.
So that was a 1 in 3 to hit the Cobalt Sticky Finger. So didn't hit it. He had a Sword Eater, a second Risky Skipper, and the Kobold in his deck. So doesn't hit it, and this is kind of bad news for XiaoT, but also a good risk to take from XiaoT. Because the longer you wait to play this Wrench Caliber, the more opportunities Jarla's going to have Cobalt Sticky Finger. Yes, you see the Ankar. Yes, there's like a 50% chance at least that he has Ankar or Cobalt Sticky Finger in his hand. You don't win this game with this hand if you just try and greed this Wrench Caliber. You go for it. And because of that, I guess Cobalt Sticky Finger most likely would have come out there. So if he wants to greed even more, he doesn't have to, like break this weapon, play Horde Pillager. I'm trying to look to see if there's like if one option is better than the other for control of the board. It doesn't seem like it. I actually think the Horde Pillager play seems pretty clean.
Yeah, sorry
these are all good.
To drop that, but these are just like great, high quality, difficult minions to deal with. Like that's probably the big takeaway is that XiaoT doesn't necessarily need, you know, Dragon Queen Alex Rouser to give him the highest crazy amount of value. If he, say, wants to take a little bit cheaper, higher tempo cards like Plague Proto Drake, which are just sticky to remove and tricky for Jarla to handle, he might be able to just get enough damage stuck onto the board where Jarla is within bomb range threat anyways. So he ends up going for the cheapest minion, the Evasive Draconid, a card that is very difficult to deal with for Jarla unless he's able to isolate it through other effects. And that's going to be something that he's settled for turn 7, as it probably looks like he just wants to follow the curve, right? He's got Horde Pillager, then Evasive Draconid, then if he needs to, perhaps play that Deathwing.
Mm-hmm. A nice little curve going.
Right, right.
So full hand space here, or full hand size. Cutting class be a little difficult to use. I wonder if Jarla's thinking about maybe parting ways with Risky Skipper Armorsmith now. The problem is he wouldn't have Battle Rage to go alongside of it, but it would just be the first combo. You could say go Risky Skipper Armorsmith, coin Bloodsword Mercenary. That's a lot of armor gain. It's kind of difficult for XiaoT to remove that without giving more armor, and then you still hold on to the weapon, so next turn you can reload with like Cutting Class plus Sword Eater.
Yeah, that's true. He does have Form of Card Draw in his hand. And so a lot of his cards help give him other cards like this Evil Quartermaster. Alright, he says not the Risky Skipper just yet. And that makes sense, right? Like that card can be used in a lot of powerful ways. You don't have to use it just to deal a little bit of damage on a non-threatening board. Picked up Slam.
Oh, he had a Battle Rage available. I think did he rope out that turn and pick Slam instead, or did he choose Slam?
That's a really good question. I guess we can't really know unless we ask Jarla directly after the series.
Can we send someone to Jarla's house to ask him, please? Or can we interrupt his gameplay? We really need to know.
Our admins who are in the Czech Republic are standing by, knocking on Jarla's door right now. No contact question, of course, as we're trying to, of course, observe social distancing here. XiaoT picks up Shield Slam. Again, he was really thinking about that Horde Pillager. It looks still pretty clean to play because he can use it to clear off the Evil Quartermaster. And in this deck, there's a couple of things that you have to keep in mind when going up against Jarla's archetype. If you are able to sniff out that your opponent wants to play like an ETC big game-ending damage turn, if you don't have minions onto the board to rush into, then there's nothing for your opponent to really do with that. But the other side of that, too, is that it's kind of like this weird thing where all these minions are also inherently threats because the more minions that stay onto the board in the late game, Jarla can also just turn them into the rush effect with the ETC God Metal and have them deal additional damage. So you can't be too careless. Keep the board a little bit clean, even though it's more combo/control oriented. And we'll see if Jarla is able to find a way to make this work. Because XiaoT isn't really, gaining a lot of armor. He's not really defensive at all. He's taking a more proactive stance, which gives me the belief that Jarla can actually find a way to win with the ETC combo.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. Depends how easily he can get through these threats that are going to be coming up from XiaoT, and if XiaoT can find a little bit more in the ways of synergy for this bomb damage, right? Either Blastmaster Boom or more ways than the upgrade to keep this Wrench Caliber swinging each and every turn. But Jarla's kind of faced with the same situation that he was faced with last turn, where he has a not so threatening board on the other side, but a Wrench Caliber. A full hand, so a difficulty to draw cards safely. So I think this is the this is the play that I wanted to make last turn, because then you could bank the armor and have a better Shield Slam target in the future. But I'll need to get used to casting Jarla games because, again, he didn't need to do this last turn, whereas this turn I feel like he absolutely does to set up for a possibility of drawing more cards next turn. He can't just sit back and do nothing. So, and again, a lot of armor, and outside of Brawl, a difficulty to deal with this board without giving significant more amounts of armor over to Jarla. So.
Yeah, a lot of X factors too. We haven't even touched upon the fact that Jarla has Zephyrus as the game continues to draw out, because Jarla anticipates him drawing a ton of cards. You see, XiaoT wants to stop both that armor gain and the card draw possibility off Battle Rage. Brawlton finds possibly the best target, although it's pretty narrow. It's like a difference between one attack, one health, one armor. XiaoT doesn't really have much else going on here, and he was really hoping to drop that Evasive Draconid. The good news is that he could just go ahead and curve out anyways on the following turn. If you could play Deathwing first and then the Evasive Draconid to really solidify it.
So I actually think I like the upgrade here over the armor up, and the reason being is because if you upgrade now and swing, you're banking on the additional weapon swing. Because Jarla set this up most likely to try and empty his hand to be able to draw cards either with Battle Rage or Cutting Class, which means he's going to get closer to Kobold Sticky Finger. And if he upgraded this turn, then if Jarla spent the mana drawing cards and then got closer to Kobold Sticky Finger, then the next weapon, which it looks like he wants to upgrade, would be a higher value. It ends up working out exactly the same, right? Because he didn't upgrade and didn't swing. So, but now Kobold Sticky Finger gone, so he gets a full Wrench Caliber and a full swing. So that was actually a really smart play from XiaoT there on second thought with how that panned out because of the no swing.
There's more upside to his play, especially because it's a single copy of Kobold Sticky Finger that he would have to account for. And so Jarla would still have to have in the top half of his deck. And the second would be that, like you said, there is even additional upside for him to hold on to it. So XiaoT, he's not too heartbroken. Obviously, you don't want to ever see the Kobold Sticky Finger. You wish it was the 30th card of your opponent's deck. But, he was able to keep chugging along. Jarla does not have the direct removal that he was looking for as a way to deal with this Deathwing. Instead, he might have to part ways with either one of his premium removal tools, like a Lord Barov, or he has to just make do with the fact that he might have to put something in the way. Like he could swing and then play his Sword Eater instead to just try to get in the way of stuff, which I don't know if I would advise that. I feel like that's very optimistic thinking.
Yeah, I think the Lord Barov you can feel pretty comfortable parting ways with, just because Bomb War is not going to really make wide boards outside of Blastmaster Boom, in which case pretty much everything is already that 1 health, and that's essentially the only use for the brawls in your deck, right? Is the Blastmaster Boom. Oh, man. All right, so let me take a look real quick. I think there's only one bomb. Yes, there's only one bomb in Jarla's deck. So this is the punish for not swinging the turn or not upgrading on the turn that I mentioned is if you do draw Blastmaster Boom, it's less effective. But at that point, XiaoT had 2 bombs in the deck. So even if Blastmaster Boom was drawn, it would have been fine, but there was a bomb drawn since then. And I wonder if he feels like a 2-bomb or a 2-Boombot Blastmaster Boom is good enough, or if he just wants to start swinging with the Wrench Caliber and kind of see where that gets him, see where the game state lies in a couple turns, and try and get that sort of lethal damage with Blastmaster Boom. And it looks like that's what he's going to do, is just play the Evasive Draconid.
Yeah, Evasive Draconid, pretty tricky for a warrior deck that doesn't have access to Bladestorm. And Jarla doesn't have the Zephyrs active. That was another way for him to potentially deal with it.
So this is a Battle Rage turn. or a 50% or 66% brawl turn.
I wonder if Jarla... Oh, he is going to play the ETC. Okay. See, all right, it is a Battle Rage opportunity, and he is going to go for it. I was wondering if he would be okay even tanking a little bit of damage to see if he could find a good Battle Rage opportunity into an ETC combo, because XiaoT's at 22, right? And that's kind of starting to be around the range where the ETC combo can do, like, basically end the game. But he is missing other pieces, right? And he didn't have a Bloodsword Mercenary in his hand, he doesn't have the animated Broomstick. And he can't really afford to go for that. And he's drawing cards like his Dark Silas or his Silas Dark Moon and his Armor Smith and stuff. That's not really even the piece of the combo that he needs either. So Jarla does seem to be kind of digging for some kind of answer here for XiaoT.
Yeah, I think the win condition here for Jarla is to stall out as much as possible and stick a Rattlegore and use that maybe with Bloodsword Mercenary to win the game.
Yeah.
Because at the moment he's going to be struggling. The one good thing is, like, he shouldn't have to really worry after this turn. He shouldn't really have to worry about the board too much. It's going to be the armor, because Deathwing Man Aspect is gone. The Draconic Lackey Dragon is gone. It's just Blastmaster Boom, which he has Brawl to answer, and then he has animated Broomsticks to deal with, and Rattlegore to deal with anything else big that could come out. Which there's not much left, right? It's a Dr. Krasinov. That's the biggest minion left available. So the worrisome thing here is that XiaoT now has an uncontested weapon that he can upgrade. He still has a 7/6 on the board that can be stolen by Silas. He can give him an Armor Smith, I guess.
It's true. Can take it right back, and XiaoT does not have a full hand at all. He's got actually kind of really not much after that Blastmaster Boom. So let's see it. Let's see this Silas Dark Moon end up being that tech that we talked about. As long as Jarla, of course, chooses to rotate the same way, you can really maximize it. Fun little thread, by the way, on Twitter this morning, I think, from Celestial on one of the game designers on Hearthstone, talking about how Silas, while really fun and one of the cool, like, early releases prior to Dark Moon Fair, ended up being quite an interesting wording issue that came up, because players see things mirrored. Therefore, Silas's left is your opponent. It's not your left when you're on the other side of it. So that was a little fun tidbit for anybody who loves those kinds of aspects of game design. XiaoT picks up Corsair Cash, not really useful considering that he already has this weapon here. So it's pretty much the Blastmaster Boom and the Shield Slam and Minefield consideration at this point. And even so, they don't seem particularly super powerful, because you can't interact too much with the evasive Draconid. XiaoT may have played himself, TJ.
I mean, he just Hero Power, Shield Slam, and Minefield.
Okay.
You could even Hero Power, Shield Slam, pick up the Penflinger, then Minefield, and then Penflinger to have a Penflinger on board.
Okay.
That's like the ultimate defensive way to clear the board. You'd have a Penflinger, but XiaoT's willing to take the damage because his hand is essentially dead, right? He's got a Wrench Caliber equipped, he's got bombs in the deck, and a Blastmaster Boom. So there's no point for him to try and stall and give Jarla a turn to set up. Oof. It's just all about trying to make the most aggressive push, and while Jarla has a way to deal with this, it is not not a very comfortable way to deal with it. So taking a look at his deck, he's got Rattlegore, Evil Quartermaster, double Broomstick, and 3 bombs. So if we look at all of these boom bots and say the average damage is 2.5, that's 15 damage.
Oh, so he really wanted that armor.
Okay.
Okay, all right. As long as Dr. Boom dies anyways. I mean, I guess he's 5 cards left in the deck. This is definitely why this deck tends to struggle against Bomb Warrior, because you draw so much of your deck through Battle Rages and Weapon Class. Takes a moderate amount of damage.
Okay.
Yeah. It could have been a lot worse for Jarla. And, you know, I
Yeah.
kind of like that XiaoT recognized that while he doesn't want to go too low himself, Jarla did lose a lot of his burst damage, so he was okay swinging last turn anyways.
Yeah.
Picks up a couple cards that are not helpful, though.
Yeah, and this is honestly looking not too great for XiaoT. You know, let's say he swings and hits. He has a 3-bomb outer with exactly 3 bombs left in the deck, but that's his last Wrench Caliber. Outside of a Horde Pillager, he's got no card draw in hand. He's got pretty much 4 dead cards in hand because Corsair Cash doesn't draw anything. And then Jarla does have kind of a way to bounce back, right?
Right. The Rattlegore for sure. You just stick Rattlegore onto the board.
Yeah.
Copy it even with the with the Bloodsword Mercenary, and then you just have a really difficult board to deal with.
Yeah.
Jarla,
So he didn't swing. He wasn't confident in the 3-bomb outer and didn't want to give up this weapon to give himself the Dr. Krasinov / upgrade out for the next turn. So Jarla saw 4 cards and then a Hero Power Pass.
Right. And I suppose he has to start doing process of elimination. Like, what could possibly be in his hand that he doesn't want to do anything? And there's a wide range, actually. You know, if XiaoT is trying to set up his opponent, like if he has all removal, that could be one thing. If he has completely dead cards, if he has situational tech cards, that might play into his mind. But either way, Jarla is very much turning the corner here. The only thing that I have concern is that Jarla is also nearing the end of his deck. And this is kind of what we were talking about before, with XiaoT also having a small life advantage. Oh, he's drawing more cards.
I was going to say, I actually like the drawing a card because, if he draws a bomb, Zephyrus is active. Then he gets to destroy the Wrench Caliber.
Oh, yes, it's true.
And 2, if he draws Rattlegore, he can coin Rattlegore.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, it's true. He does have this coin still.
That's it. Those are the only things. Animated Broomstick was actually, I think, the worst draw because I think he wanted to destroy this weapon.
Right. Okay, so XiaoT draws another Blade Storm. I mean, Blade Storm is better this turn than it was last turn, but that's not saying much right now. Do you have to kill his Armor Smith with a weapon? Swing with your Wrench Caliber and just pick up the pieces afterwards?
Probably.
Yeah, and playing these Corsair Cash, which don't really do anything, is giving information to Jarla as well, so you can see XiaoT kind of holding his eyes, keeping his eyes peeled, because at this point, he's recognizing that there's not many ways for him to win this game from this position. The pan out the past 4 turns has just been pretty bad at the moment.
Yeah,
he doesn't have many ways to develop at all.
Galakrond would have been good. Even like Shield blocks to cycle. Horde Pillager, so he has an excuse to swing.
Rattlegore.
Yep.
Does this
so
mean
last
that
2 cards are both bombs in the
right.
deck.
I was going to say
and
that.
then he will take a point of fatigue, so there's a 11 damage loaded up for XiaoT.
Okay, so XiaoT has perfect information now. He has the knowledge that Jarla's last 2 cards are bombs. You should know all the tools in the hand except for the lackey. So he should be aware of what Jarla can and can't do. Jarla trying to pressure. I guess he's thinking about what he should do with his last remaining mana or 2 mana.
If you play the Witchy Lackey, does it help with Blade? Blade Storm doesn't matter, because Blade Storm is never going to kill this Rattlegore. Do you Shield Slam something? I don't know.
Yeah. It's a little
worrisome,
worrisome,
because you're not going to have
because
armor next turn.
Right.
So, because it's all going to be gone from the boss. Do you coin armor up? I think coin armor up. Shield Slams the Broomstick
Brawl?
for 1 armor.
he's playing around. Is he playing around Ironbeak Owl Brawl? He thought a long time before Chio-slamming his own 1/1 for 9 damage.
I wonder.
Wants to set up for the potential lethal next turn. Zephyrs will be active. Radogor is so strong.
So it had to have been exactly for Ironbeak Owl plus Brawl, because if he wanted to maximize his armor gain, he would have coin armored up. That's one more armor than the play that he made.
True. Also, like, maybe if there's some kind of damage that XiaoT had to potentially get more, like if he Galakroned, hero power, hit for 7, I guess?
There's no way. He wasn't. He wouldn't have been dead. There was no way. So it must have been for Ironbeak Owl Brawl, right? Just maximizing his chances for Radogor to stick. Because if it's Ironbeak Owl Coerce, it dies every time. He was just maximizing his odds to get Zephyr's lethal, and he got it.
Yeah,
so,
it's going to do it. Game number 1 over to Jarla, and yet another unfavorable match. This Czech player looks unstoppable with a 4-0 start to the day. Ooh. Oh, he's going to manipulate the chances because he thinks that Zephyrus isn't smart enough to spot lethal?
Zephyrus is at least smart enough for Inner Demon.
Yeah.
like it's just lethal with no... Yeah, I know. Oh, he's going for the wind speaker.
Yeah. Let Radogor have his moment there. That's going to do it. 1-0 for Jarla. 4 games in a row. Couple of unfavorables, but really tight play. Understanding what he can part ways with in this matchup. And obviously some fortune on his side. You know, XiaoT, had he had anything really to play for 3 turns, maybe a different scenario where he's able to push damage, get Jarla into that fatigue state, and then combo him with bombs while disabling that Zephyrus. Really, really tough spot there for XiaoT. I wasn't sure what he could really do much more from there, quite frankly.
Yeah, that was a good opening, right? He had the answers. He had an additional threat. The Blastmaster Boom turn I thought was great. You know, instead of playing like this defensive setup and trying to wait for the perfect moment, he sensed weakness and went for it right away. It's just, you know, those last 4 draws, right, just didn't give him the extra oomph that he needed. But you have to commend Jarla for that one. Most players, when they're approaching fatigue like that and they have bombs in their deck, right, they don't want to draw cards because they think it accelerates their death. But Jarla went for that Battle Rage because he could have had a more powerful play that turn, and 2, he timed it out because of XiaoT not swinging, that he would have enough health to take the additional bomb damage. He just wanted to get 1 card closer for Zephyrus to be active, to be able to either 1, remove a weapon, or 2, push for lethal like he did. So nicely done. The only thing is Jarla ended the game with the coin in his hand, which is a big mistake. Huge. And for that, I'm going to have to knock Europe a couple points. You never end the game with the coin in your hand.
In fact, the series is still 0-0. It's at the restart from scratch.
It's just inefficient mana utilization, right? He had plenty of opportunities to use the coin and just didn't. So, even though Jarla won, I'm casting this match under protest.
That's right. We're going to game number 2 here. We have Paladin versus the Warrior, starting off with an Altar Attendant, immediately followed by Hand of a Doll, the strongest 1-2 punch that Paladin has, barring any kind of random generation that they're able to get. Wow. Finds double Libram of Wisdom. That's basically Hand of a Doll, but without the card draw.
All right, so
So Minefield is what we're thinking of, right?
Let me think.
Yeah. In that case, do you just Blessing of Wisdom and Libram?
It's definitely a good question because the Hand of the Doll is supposed to give your mini stickiness, and there are uses of it, especially in the mid stages of the game, if you're able to get things out of range. So I kind of like that play that you described because this still sets up a threat, but it's making XiaoT play a little bit inefficiently. Blessing of Wisdom replaces itself, and we know that the Libram Wisdom comes back to the hand when you kill the minion, assuming no silence effects happen.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, not to mention that it's also just has higher upside, right? Like, it's harder for XiaoT to deal with a 4 health minion this early, even if he had, cards like Shield Slam and whatnot. It had to be just Minefield. So the upside of that play was pretty huge if Jarla was able to get 2 cards from it or more.
Yeah, and because you get Hand of Vidal will always draw a card, whereas Blessing of Wisdom will only draw a card if you get to attack. It just makes sense to use the one where you can attack, right? The downside is you push 1 less damage that turn. But both plays are still vulnerable to Minefield. This one just gets the Blessing of Wisdom draw out of the way. Iron Beak Owl picked up early, so there was potential for XiaoT to sort of shut down Libram Train from happening by silencing this 1-1 early on in the game, but even though that seems like a fancy play, oh yeah, my opponent doesn't have a Libram, they have another one in the deck. He's already played 2. He's going to get him back with Lady Legion at some point in the game. So I like to just get the Wrench Caliber, start swinging. You got to upgrade in hand, Horde Pillager. His hand is telling him to do one thing, so just do that thing.
Right. Trying to find an opportunity to find additional value. Can you use the Hand of Vidal on this Hungry Crab? Could also space his threats. Like he could create 2 minions this turn through his hero power, and instead try to split up the amount of single target that XiaoT has. Like, if your opponent's able to find a way to upgrade their weapon, they would get slightly into the range. But Jarla is choosing to just kind of keep the play maximum amount of stats line every single turn, and I can't really fault him for that. It's really powerful to keep the amount of pressure going as a Paladin. He has Argent Braggart in hand, so he does have even more upside to flood the board with just as amount of tempo, if not more. So XiaoT has to consider how he wants to use some of his removal in this spot. You want to use the Owl here.
Again, like, it seems good, but at the same time, there most likely is going to be so many more good targets to use that Iron Beak Owl on at any point in the game, right?
It's
like,
bait.
How do you let this stick while still, keeping up with like the tempo? Honestly, just because I'm torn. I want to Evil Quartermaster upgrade and just hit. I don't know, but okay, he's gonna go for it. Not getting too greedy, right?
Yeah, not getting too greedy, but more importantly, now he's slightly ahead on the board, which means that if Jarla is playing like his Aldor Truthseeker, he's actually equipped to beat it next turn.
That's also true.
Not necessarily. It's actually not entirely true because he knows that there is a possibility of a Libra Wisdom number 2, but he doesn't know if that's the case, and that ends up being exactly what happens here. Jarla masking the other Libram of Wisdom has disrupted XiaoT's curve because he can't play the Horde Pillager upgrade and kill.
Yeah, and maybe that was kind of blinding my play from XiaoT's perspective. What you said, that would have been super clean. Imagine if there was no second Wisdom. He Horde Pillagers upgrades here, trades over, has a 4/2 on board, card advantage, all advantage, right?
Right.
But now this lives, and that's pretty problematic because you just sink the damage into it to play around the Argent Braggarts that Jarla has decided to include instead of the Dragon Tamers that most players have been including in this list with Amber Watcher. It's that's when it starts to get tough. So it looks like he is going to deviate, not play the Horde Pillager and upgrade.
Right.
And instead go for a little bit of a slower turn, a setup turn.
Yeah, it's quite frankly, this is well done on both sides. Jarla played his hand perfectly from the ordering and making sure to space his threats and annoy XiaoT. XiaoT, of course, setting up for Jarla's best play to see if there's any point in time they can stop Paladin's momentum, because Paladin tends to play one thing onto the board at a time unless they're trying to go for a broom turn with card draw like Salad's Pride and things of that sort. So if you can get ahead in the mid game, that's where the Bomb Warrior is okay, because they can start swinging every turn confidently instead of being behind by these big taunt minions. And now you see Jarla going for the full on tempo swing with the animated broomstick and pushing the damage. XiaoT definitely a little bit of trouble here.
And I like the no hero power here because it plays around Brawl. His board is already decent against Bladestorm. Hero powers.
Slightly worse versus Brawl, slightly better versus Bladestorm. Or a lot better versus Bladestorm.
Yeah, but he would have to have Bladestorm something else, right? Like, his board already, I guess it protects the 5/5 from Bladestorm.
Yeah, it's not even necessarily about like protecting the 5/7 versus, oh wow, both of them died and only the 1/1 survived. The Brawl backfired Jarla's plan to be able to try and protect him from the Bladestorm, but yeah, Bladestorm still deals 10 damage for 3 mana. I still think that Jarla, hedged his bets against one of the cards and got punished by the other. It happened.
In the light's name.
Yeah, and I suppose he also knew that there was a lackey being held onto, so his Brawl odds were already lower because of that, because he was on 6 mana, so he could lackey Brawl.
Right.
So it would have been like from 33% to 25%, which is like not that big of a jump. So yeah, no, I agree with this. Doing the math, like 10 damage as opposed to 1 damage or 3 damage, right, for Bladestorm is
it does
better.
Also make sense with Jarla's hand, because a Brawl that comes out to respond to his board makes this Guardian that gets summoned from the Libram of Hope, this 8/8 Divine Shield taunt minion, very hard to deal with. Warrior has even fewer ways to kill that now that Brawl is out. Wait a second.
Oh!
I might have spoken a little bit too soon. That is precisely the card that XiaoT needed in order to deal with it. The one-of copy, of course. Oh my goodness, that's a nasty draw. Now XiaoT, I guess, has to think about the remaining 4 mana, because he could play Wrench Caliber. He could also play Horde Pillager.
So the Wrench Caliber is a known quantity because of the Corsair cache. That's the only benefit that I can see playing that over the Horde Pillager. But Horde Pillager and Coerce, Horde Pillager would be not an uncontested 4/2, because the Libra Wisdom would go back to the hand, and that would be able to trade over the 1/1.
Funny to note the synergy with Light Warden and some of the heal mechanics in Paladin. Libram of Justice, not really important right here.
Hey, loser!
Jarla, of course, sequencing this to ensure that he can find optimal ways to set up his board here.
Reporting for duty.
And now Jarla's out of cards outside of this Penflinger and Libram. If XiaoT can fade this, it'll be up to Jarla's deck to save him from this spot.
Which, I mean, I can think of some good draws. XiaoT is at 16, so pretty much anything big at this point. The Libram Libram of Hope. Lady Liadrin would be amazing right now, just because he's, has all of the... It would be a full hand of Lady Liadrin. He's played so many Blessing of Wisdoms. He's played the Libram of Hope. He played a Hand of Adult and a Blessing of Wisdom. Cobalt Sticky Finger would be quite good at the moment.
Sure. That would be very nice. XiaoT has a bunch of synergies with weapons. Lord Barov and Deathwing Mad Aspect. I'm kind of thinking about the merits of dropping the Lord Barov in this position. You don't get to activate him immediately and then get that 1 damage AoE and kill off this Pupil on the other side, but it is something to get out, and you probably want to think about how Deathwing could be played the following turn to win you back the board. So I am curious about if he ends up playing this Barov. Goes for it. And Jarla, of course, not really too happy to see it.
Ooh.
All right, Blessing of Wisdom. Helps him get another card draw, so it's sort of a wash, but he does lose the mana. I don't know if that changes too much. Most of his deck is playable at this point, if not all of it.
Oh!
Whoa! I mean, Cobalt Sticky Finger is in the hand now. Jarla can
He knows that there's
weapon.
a full Wrench Caliber in hand, though. I guess
Right.
you just can't afford. Force him to spend the mana on the other one, right?
Yeah. Not to mention, he's trying to kill him, you know? He's got him down to 18. Shoveled the bomb in, 10 showing. Like, you know, Jarla wants the pressure at this point. That's the primary way the Paladin wins. The longer this game goes, the less likely the Paladin tends to win in this matchup. Because the bombs end up activating. XiaoT aware that this Deathwing is not long for this world because he has the possibility of the Penflinger,
Ooh.
but Jarla has something better. Silas
Ooh.
Dark Moon.
He even gets to pick off the 1/1 with the Penflinger because of the Libram that's in hand. Well, I mean, yeah, you got to take it, right? He's at 15. That's 13 damage. He's got Penflinger plus a card he's been holding in hand.
Right.
Yeah, 50-50 brawl.
Yeah. And the 50-50 brawl doesn't even help him clear the board. It just means that he takes 13 or 4 damage. Pretty significant difference.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that XiaoT's out of the woods just yet either.
Yeah, so let's, how many bombs are actually in deck? There's one bomb.
Oh,
One bomb in both players' decks.
okay.
Well, he won.
That helps. So he does have to take some damage more to clear. And so he does end up clearing here, and that ends up meaning that Jarla has to start from scratch. And he does have a couple bombs in the deck, but if he picks up Lady Leadrin or other cards like that that can give him a bunch of resources, he will be cooking. But he's kind of stalled out here now.
Yeah, so the benefit that he does have is Jarla's pushing damage every turn, right? No matter what. Either XiaoT clears the board and Jarla penflingers and reloads with Libram of Wisdom.
True.
Or XiaoT ignores the board and the board hits him. There's also a bomb in his deck. So not only does Jarla have a bunch of great draws in the deck that could help him push more damage or build these big boards, he also is creating this awkward situation turn after turn for XiaoT where XiaoT just doesn't have options.
Yeah.
He can go face with his Wrench Caliber and then hope that all the bombs are being shuffled right on the top of the deck. Like that's his hope. And maybe he draws Blastmaster Boom.
Yeah.
Or Cutting Class
I
at this
like
point
it.
would be fantastic also.
Yeah, he needs to get the damage in. It's kind of like you said, you're always pushing damage every single turn. And if you actually keep just clearing off the minions, you're helping him accelerate his clock. Because then he's getting more Penflinger and Libram of Wisdom value. Can Jarla find a way to cross that finish line? A first day of school.
Sure.
I mean, every
It's
little
another
bit helps.
damage. All right, cool. Soul Fragments.
Shuffle more cards. Is it a soul fragment or is it a bomb? 2 soul fragments could almost wipe the bomb off. XiaoT also has to be mindful how much damage stacks onto the board here because he's about to take 3 with 6 or 5 on the board rather, but 6 because he knows a Penflinger.
Do you ever just Penflinger and Libram to push damage? It would just be Blastmaster Boom at this point, right? I guess Dr. Krasnov as well.
True.
That's an
what I
extra
worry
4 damage over the next 4 turns, Dan.
That is true. You are smacking with Libram of Justice every single turn. And that does add up. Especially when you're starting to get to the margins as thin as it is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, Bomb Boy does not play many minions. XiaoT does not have much card draw. Needs a cutting class. Find Blast Master Boom.
But if he plays it in armors up...
7 damage.
So Jarla would need a spell, right?
He needs a spell, assuming like XiaoT doesn't have any other removal.
Yeah.
So he does. It's only a 1/1. Blast Master Boom. 5 damage, 6 with the Pen Flinger. A buff will do it. Soul Fragment into Bomb. Into a Soul Fragment. Into a Salad Pride. What will that draw? His other Pen Flinger?
So he has Pen Flinger. He also has Argent Braggart. Broomstick.
Also another Salad's Pride? Oh, I like this actually. Pen Flinger because he wants to draw first, react, and then use the enemy Broomstick. It's clever. Finds the other Salad's Pride. But it looks like this Pen Flinger is not gonna be able to bounce back.
This will draw Pen Flinger and Braggart.
Right.
He's running out of time.
Yeah.
He at least didn't get the face attack off. It's possible that he didn't get the last 2 attacks off. Yep, missed 2 damage. Yikes.
Oh no.
And this is he's effectively at 12.
I mean,
Okay, that's not a... Yeah, it could be. So he would need 12 damage worth of boombots to face with 6 hits.
Oh.
Okay, that's okay.
Missing that 2 damage.
That worked out.
Yeah, missing that 2 damage. Didn't completely bite Jarla yet. But he does need a little bit of help. And again, he's got bombs in his deck, which could also
There's 4 bombs
end
in
the
his
game.
deck. It's almost half his deck is bombs. But the other half is gas.
Okay.
Gas, okay.
Every little bit helps. What's the best way to sequence it? You can Pen Fling before you do anything with the Libram. So you can Pen Flinger twice, then Libram. It leaves you 3 other mana. Then you can play Argent Braggart. And then that leaves you room for the Broomstick if you want to use it to proactively trade.
Okay. Now you go Flinger. So he wants to Broom. If he's doing the Libram first, then he wants to Braggart and Broom.
Right. Yes, and I agree with that because he wants to get the max amount of stats to maximize the boom, the surface area for these boom bots. Okay, 0, 1,
4.
Okay, 4.
That's not good.
Yeah, but like finally, like XiaoT's bomb actually lands for more than 1. Minefield is interesting.
His Serpent Egg is making the minefield awkward because XiaoT will die if he doesn't clear both minions. Because he can go up to 10, but 9 plus the weapon swing on the Braggart. So this looks like it's trade Faceless, trade Evil Quartermaster, Boombot in, attack face, hope for a 2-bomb outer.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
it will be
that's
5 out of the 11 cards in deck will be bombs. So slightly less than 50% of the deck will be bombs.
Yeah,
and
but
he
it has
needs
to happen
2 in a row.
twice. Has to happen
2 in a
twice,
row or
TJ.
he's dead.
Otherwise, Jarla's going to go up 2-0 with his Argent Braggart ready to go. Minefield.
Yep, just throw out the minefield. Who cares?
Bomb number 1.
Oh!
No! Jarla barely survives and able to close out game 2, putting himself at the doorstep of top 4. 5 games in a row for Jarla. Start of the day, a 3-0 sweep into a 2-0 lead over XiaoT. Can he do it here? And now he is at match point.
Ooh, that was close too. And that one wasn't as clean. The rest of the wins felt really clean from Jarla, but that one was messy. He gave up, at least some damage on the turn where he roped out, and it's likely that he could have even, if he had started acting faster, made that turn even more efficient, right? If he could trade in some minions, let the minions absorb some Boombot damage, right?
Right.
But at least a couple points of missed damage. So,
yeah, I think he was looking for
the result got
in that
there.
spot, which is understandable, right? When you're like thinking really hard about lethal, and like I think he would have to trade his minion and then get the Libram back and double Penflinger. It's like that kind of stuff is like really tricky, but it didn't end up being the difference maker. And Jarla is now up 2-0 with his priests remaining. Now Priest still has more questions. We don't have many priests in the field, and the only other priest player got 3-0'd. So. Jarla, what does his control priest have in store? It got the win last time. Do you think it has a good shot against XiaoT? On paper, the answer is no. Priest is unfavored in all the matchups. If you look at just raw data from over all the data that's available out there, but I'm not sure if that's telling the full story here. Is it?
I don't think it is. No, data is really hard to interpret for Priest right now for a couple reasons. One, I feel like the deck, outside of some players that are like Gabby, who are in the top, or Dead Draw, right, who are playing Priest consistently at high ends of Legend. The lists differ a lot, and the data hasn't settled from the bug fix of Nazmani Bloodweaver yet. Nazmani Bloodweaver, a week ago? Maybe more than a week ago, 2 weeks ago, would still be able to reduce cards that were free. And now Nazmani Bloodweaver will only reduce cards that have positive mana cost to them, which makes it a little bit more consistent. Combined with Gift of Luminance, you can get some absurd mana discounts on your hand. And because you play a lot of cheap spells that can combo off each other, you can get this crazy combo turn going where you just reduce the cost of your hand by a lot, right? I've heard a few people say that Priest is the best deck in the metagame. Now, one of those was Frozen, who had, a half hour prior been beaten. His OTK Demon Hunter was beaten by Mindrender or Lucia Priest. So obviously, when that happens, you become a little biased, but I do think that Priest is a lot better than the stats say, and a lot better than most of the players are giving it credit for. So we'll see. We'll see. I do think that XiaoT has some decks that can do it. But again, Jarla has Cobalt Sticky Finger, or perhaps the Shaman or the Warrior. He's navigated these tricky control value matchups against Highlander Rogue with Priest before in the past. He is probably the best control player in the world currently. So we shall see, Dan. We shall see.
We shall see. And, I love that because, Jarla is, one, staying true to his style. In fact, many players are in the World Championship. I think one of the most common answers we had in the interviews leading up to this event was, I wanted to just bring decks that I'm comfortable with. And Jarla said, yeah, and I'm comfortable with the most complicated, hard, easy to mess up, thinnest margin decks that have big payoff if I play it absolutely flawlessly. And Jarla is doing exactly that. Not necessarily the absolutely flawlessly part, one small misstep here and there, but for the most part, he's playing very solid and has so far been rewarded with a lot of wins consecutively as we go into game number 3. Opening mulligans are done. Jarla starts things off with the Cleric of Scales. Finds pretty good stuff, all things considering. Chooses the Soul Mirror just to have that answer to a Shaman board if he needs it, because this Shaman board, like we've seen a couple times now, can kind of explode out of nowhere.
Yep, just as much board clears as you can possibly muster is the way to go in this matchup. XiaoT is playing a little less consistency with minions and board control, I guess. He's playing Serpentine Portals and Storm Strikes and Inara Storm Crash instead of the Sea Giant animated broomstick kind of package that we've seen. So he's got more direct damage, more ways to fight for the board early, but less ways to go for decisive swing turns later in the game. I honestly think his version works better against Priest because you don't necessarily need to have swing turns. You just need to keep presenting threatening boards turn after turn after turn and keep the pressure high to try and force them to react to your board while also worrying about their life total. So I think this version works a little bit better against Priest specifically. But this hand is not the greatest. He's got a good amount of the weapon synergy, but not the weapon or the ways to draw the weapon. The Bogspine Knuckles. So as soon as a Bogspine Knuckles comes into hand, he's cooking because he's got Horde Pillager to follow it up. There's no Cobalt Sticky Finger in the hand from Jarla just yet. But it's about getting there and deciding whether or not it's worth using these resources like Dread Corsair just for tempo when they will be so much better if you just drew a Bogspine Knuckles. That's the fine balance that you have to play with when you're playing an Evolved Shaman with no weapon drawn early on.
Yeah, I mean, without weapons, this Shaman deck is just a really weak token deck without an actual finisher. It almost feels like an arena Shaman, right? Where it's just kind of jamming a bunch of stats on separate bodies and trying to just win on sheer tempo. And it's just not nearly as effective without it. So, I mean, there's so much redundancy in being able to find things like that weapon and get a Bogspine Knuckles in play through the Custodian and Horde Pillager that it does feel like you should be able to get it in most games, but every now and then it eludes you, and then you realize, well, if I have no weapon, then this Shaman deck is just bad. So we'll see if XiaoT can find that. Otherwise, his hand is pretty useless.
Yeah. All right, so that was I was feeling like Apotheosis was going to be the play there. It's just whether or not he wanted to trade into the higher power minion or higher cost minion. That's an interesting debate you have to make with yourself when you're playing against Evolved Shaman, because it's about immediate power versus potential future power. Nothing has indicated to Jarla that XiaoT has the weapon. And beyond that, nothing has indicated that even if he had weapon, that he would be playing it on 4, because he likely would have bloomed it the previous turn to try and set up for a swing turn. So he feels safe to just take the kill on the higher power minion and worry about the higher cost minion later, since it looks like there's no Bogspine Knuckles, at least for the time being. I don't even know what I'd do with this hand. Just Surging Tempest, Storm Strike.
Yeah. So part of what I feel like makes Shaman feel strong is when you do, like one, when you're playing on ladder, you get a lot of games. So if you tend to see a large volume of sample size, like, oh, this deck actually wins a pretty good amount of time. But, is it one of those things where it's a victim of the amount of volume that you get because there's so much volatility, whether or not you draw that weapon, that, in fact, your win rate is directly tied with how often you draw that weapon? makes it a situation like this where XiaoT's like just kind of chilling. He doesn't actually have meaningful plays to do, and what he's actually doing is giving Jarla the amount of time for him to craft the perfect hand that he wants. Because with all these Cleric of Scales, Renews, and ways to generate spells that generate other spells, Jarla pretty much can hand pick the amount of like what he really wants to have to respond to XiaoT's board. One XiaoT even finds the weapon.
This one ain't gonna work out for XiaoT. Jarla's also a Nazmani Bloodweaver away from his hand being entirely free. Essentially, he's got 0 cost Renews, Holy Ripple, Coin.
Right.
He's got Cleric of Scales, which is active, which could find him like Gift of Luminance. Not that any of that matters for Jarla, but it just will give him a ton of options simultaneously. So, maybe you just take it slow
this
still.
Is the other side of the coin, TJ. Like, we saw Bloody Faces deck list that doesn't have Surging Tempest and instead has cards like Novice Engineers, and I think it's to really offset situations like this where, yeah, it's nice to have that Surging Tempest early, especially if you can get boards building up very quickly and then overwhelm your opponent with the Box by Knuckles later. But in any situation past turn like 3, I feel like cards like Surging Tempest have almost no effect on the Shaman's win rate. But that could just me being biased simply because I've drawn cards like that in the mid game and just felt like it hasn't done anything. Maybe in larger sample sizes, it's performing a lot better. Or perhaps that XiaoT was anticipating a different field, right? Like maybe this would be a lot better against other kinds of decks that's not Control Priest that he's trying to think about.
Yeah, it seems like he went for a more tempo-oriented Evolved Shaman instead of like combo-oriented, right? But at this point, he, like you mentioned, he's just given Jarla so much time. Hold on. Can he easily corrupt Auspicious Spirits? I don't think so. I mean, I guess he's going to eventually because the likelihood that he gets through this game without playing a Soul Mirror is quite low.
I mean, he is just big chilling here until XiaoT finds something else. He could Lightning Bloom into a perfect palindrome hand. And that's pretty much it.
Yep.
And these kinds of situations, I guess it's one of those things where you kind of know going into it, this is the risk that you incur. How does XiaoT even turn around this situation? If he draws the weapon, do you think he can do this? I'm starting to feel like he can't. I feel like it's almost past that window, TJ.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna try, right? There are some ways. Dread Corsairs evolving into Waxadreads, and the Waxadread candle gets placed right on top each and every turn, right? So you consistently have these threats. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Into a couple of Earth Elementals, and somehow Jarla can't deal with them.
Yeah.
Right? A Soul Mirror doesn't kill an Earth Elemental, then he can double Storm Strike, hit face again, push a ton of damage. I guess he uses one of his, but like there are fringe outs.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there it is.
All right. That's big. I mean, this was probably one of the last 2 turns, I'd say.
Yeah.
Before he could do it. And Jarla knows, right? Like he's like, okay, there's no way XiaoT's floating 5-6 mana a turn without him having all these pieces.
Yeah. I mean, Jarla's probably happy. He's like, oh, jeez. Thank God I can finally play my cards.
Right. We're getting at the point where Jarla would have to coin and pass in order to have hand space to draw cards that he needs. Soul Mirror could answer this immediately.
I mean, he could also just like stall, right? Cabal Acolyte, Wave of Apathy.
Right.
He could even just like rush the Spectral Murloc thing into the Muck Morpher. There are so many ways that Jarla can just stall this game out and just wait until something bigger happens.
True. I guess I was like slightly concerned with like the possibility that XiaoT would be able to evolve and make these stats hard for Zolmir to be impactful, but Jarla's just going to simply merge on right back and get tempo on his side and has a board that's just really hard for XiaoT to deal with. Pitmaster can't even get corrupted easily here unless he's willing to use the Horde Pillager charge.
Might be another 3-0, Dan.
It's
not
looking
really
like
seeing
it.
much.
It's looking like it. We've had a day full of 3-0s. Lots of sweeps coming into this World Championship to start things off. And Jarla is so close to the semifinals going into tomorrow that he can feel it. You can kind of see him locked in. I don't know. I'm thinking about any combination that XiaoT can evolve. I think that's what he's thinking about too. Like, is there any possibility I can find a way out of this game? Do I even have to play this? Is there a way I can get away with not playing it?
Yeah, he's like, gotta play it because Horde Pillager.
Okay.
Kane, Sun Fury, Talbritha, nothing. He doesn't have any Outcast cards. This is 9, 10, 11, 15 damage currently being represented on the board. Oh, Zolmir with the Dragon Rider Tauritha. This is interesting, Dan.
Oh, he has dragons in hand. You're right.
Are we... you know, that Jarla, always looking for things to have more fun, right?
Yeah. No doubt. Oh, funny
He's
enough,
just
he
looking
can't
for
even
ways
really
to
target his own
efficiently
minions
murder.
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, at this point he's at 22. XiaoT's had 2 cards in his hand that he hasn't been using all game. No weapon equip, no nothing. Jarla's just like, okay, I got to think about board space for Mogushan or Mogu Flesh Shaper. I have to make as big of a board as I possibly can.
Oh. As he finds the Antean. So I guess that's a clock for XiaoT.
Yeah.
I suppose so. I haven't seen that card since the very beginning of the rotation year. And Jarla just going to put some dragons in and make his board sturdy. XiaoT has 0 outs from my perspective. I'm willing to be corrected on his Horde Pillager. Okay, Mogu Flesh Shaper, maybe.
Also, the Reborn on the Ring Matron is just like, how, dude? That's so much just raw power on board. It's insane.
Yeah. You're actually like, you just don't actually want to kill it.
Yeah. But that's the only thing he could swing into.
Right. Oh, this is so bad for
So
XiaoT.
if you, if he had rolled spell power, he could have Storm Striked, which would have put enough minions on the board to where he could bloom Mogu, and then attack into the Reborn one. He can't kill it. He needs Fireheart. It's Fireheart or bust, right?
Yeah, I mean, and even then,
Fireheart
Fireheart would have to get like the
Urshock
most
into-
incredible string of things. It'd be like devolving missiles into his opponents, like hitting a Doomsayer to prevent Jarla from being able to develop anything into the board, into giving XiaoT like ridiculous card generation of some sort. I don't know. It would just be the odds of that happening are astronomically low, and I don't think that XiaoT has a snowball's chance in hell to like, pull himself out of this game anymore. Jarla's pretty much doing the Priest thing where Priest can't really lose, but it can't really win for a little bit of time. XiaoT will wait to see one last card to see if that is potentially the game changer that we're not thinking about.
Nope. Had to be Fireheart there, especially since the Antean is coming out next turn.
Right.
That's 10 damage. Like, I mean, is there anything from Mogu Flesh Shaper? Like, is Scrapyard Colossus enough?
Let's just find out, TJ.
All right. Blue Gill Warrior.
Absolutely not. That's going to do it. Jarla, another 3-0, 6-0 game score to start off his World Championship campaign. And what a start that is, because he is our first player through to the semifinals heading into Championship Sunday. With all those expectations, being from the European region, being blessed by other former champions that are helping him practice, and also being touted by many analysts as the best player currently in Hearthstone, it's been quite a start for this Czech player.
Yeah, with this kind of momentum, 2-0 qualification with 6-0 game score into the semifinals, only 2 matches left to win to be crowned world champion. He's got to be feeling good. And honestly, after that display, no matter what your prediction board says, Jarla has to be pegged as the favorite right now, because that was
absolutely
one slip up, right? One weak turn that was very difficult, quite complicated, and he still won that game. That's the only thing we can point at that Jarla's, not been nearly perfect so far throughout his 2 matches. So very scary for anybody that meets him in the semifinals. Very scary.
Yeah, very much so.